Do the intro.
All right. It's just some weird ass headphones I got going on. Uh,
Same ones you
well,
like always have.
I mean, I was leading into it, motherfucker. You gonna bleep it out, right?
I don't bleep it out. What do you mean?
Holy shit! So then we're still sipping. We're still
Is this
talking shit. Or
is it a
wait,
PG-13 or is it a what is it?
exactly right? Hey man, we're just at Leo's corner. It is what it is.
Leo's Corner. Oh, this is a different show. Leo's Corner.
Yeah, this is like a bonus episode where we. It's like
Okay. So
and
what is this about? So I can have I can have an idea what am I expecting?
We just abducted your ass. That's it.
We're just chatting. Fuck yeah, I'm down.
Well, pretty much for this show, we just talk about music.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, that's my topic.
So we can talk about we can go off of
Well,
This is actually a little weird thing to ask. A slight thing, but just to ask any one of you guys, who do you guys think had the better bass line, the Sex Pistols or the Ramones?
So okay.
That was a joke question, by the way, but you guys are being serious about it. Oh damn! Let's get the answer.
Yeah, like I thought you were being serious. So the two bass players are different because the original Sex Pistols, Sex Pistols
Sex
bass
Pistols, really? All right, so the Ramones do have the best bass line because you can remember the Ramones name.
They were both equally not talented. They were both equally non-talented. Come on. They were both equally non-talented when they started. But when once they started like getting into their bands and shit,
so
I would say that I don't. Sid Vicious was just terrible bass player.
He wasn't the original bass player.
Yeah,
that's.
I'm not talking about Sid. Sid did not record the bass lines on their album. It was actually
case, I'm gonna
Steve Jones had to redo Sid Vicious bass line because he was
gonna have to be the Ramones, yeah. Because I know Sid Vicious was a terrible bass player.
But I have so many issues with I hate that people worship Sid Vicious as it's iconic. No, he's a piece of trash.
Dude, he's like anything that was kind of emo. He was a look. No, I'm not saying that emo bands were bad. I'm not saying emo bands were bad.
Sid Vicious was
just a look.
Punk rock. He had the spiky hair. He looked cool.
Oh, wait. He's the original scene guy.
He is.
In the story, he was the original scene guy. And then I'm pretty sure a lot of punks are gonna attack us because what the fuck?
No, the punks like Sid because he's a punk.
He is.
He's a punk from heart. That's why.
Again,
but is he a musician? No, he ain't a musician.
He sucks. Yeah.
He sucks.
Even as a it's
to your question.
Yeah, he was Susie's drummer beginning before he joined the bass players. The Sex Pistols as a bass player. But I will say
to your question, I do think that if he was down to the Ramones or Sex Pistols, I would say Ramones as a better bass player.
So it's interesting because both these bands, Didi Ramone was a lead songwriter in since like the whole band saying, and then Glenn
Bro,
the original.
did he like kept up with Joey like fucking, and he kept up with them like fucking tight, like everything was just fucking tight.
That's strumming.
But
he
like
kept that shit like, like he was good even if it wasn't because of musicianship. He kept that shit tight. Live.
Because like the original Sex Pistols bass player Glenn Matlock was a early songwriter to like most of their songs, and he was technically a better guitar player than Steve Jones, their like guitar player. And like they've like talked about this before. He wrote all their biggest hits, but as like Steve Jones says it, Glenn would like write these what he calls Beatle chords, and Steve Jones can't play chords. He knows power chords. So,
but what? Okay,
like,
so Leo,
like
when you're talking about
all these bass players, like
Pistols,
basically wrote the foundation to both these bands, which is pretty cool.
So Leo, whenever you ask about who was who's better, or Ramones or Sex Pistols bass player, who do you actually refer to? Because right now we need details. Who do you
All right,
actually refer
so
to?
Dee Ramone was there for like a long period of time. We had Old Boy
Which
there for
Diddy Ramone? I mean, to
one
me,
album.
Diddy Ramone is just the.
None of the Sex Pistols like lasted longer than like
Exactly.
anything.
Like you only have that's all you have to work with. But the thing is, through the whole discography, how much you have to work with.
Oh yeah, that's why
So
like
hold on.
overall Dee Dee's better.
And hold on. So here's the actual question. Through the whole thing, it's pretty much Sex Pistols, Ramones, because you only had one album to work with, the Sex Pistols, and they had the Ramones to go with the whole thing. Now here's where you get the gap. I feel like you get the gap.
Right.
I feel like you get the gap for the reason of
Reason of what? Reason that
reason up. I know. It's like the saddest thing.
that one band just had one album, and then the other one had 12, I think it was.
Evolution. You're right. It's one album versus so many. Evolution. But
Again,
that one album is so iconic, yes.
yeah,
Because
that's
it hit certain points in a different side of the world.
yeah.
So
So
like
here's why.
and that leads to another reason. Like why Ramones versus the Addicts.
That's a closer battle because like both bands have a bunch of albums, but um, I'll give you my like answer, like reason for Sex Pistols versus Ramones, which one I personally like better. Um, Sex Pistols did have the one album, but they also have like a handful of other songs that were recorded for their second album that like never happened, but like they are released on various compilations or other live recordings. So you kind of know where like they were going. They were still kind of going with the same style. Because again, a song like "Satellite," one of my favorite Sex Pistols songs ever. But it was on that first album. It was going to be on their second album. Um, I love that song. But I overall hate to say it, I do like the Sex Pistols more. I love that album, top to bottom. Submission's the only weak song on it. Some people complain that the songs sound very similar, but it's punk rock. I love it. I love Steve Jones' guitar playing. I love Johnny's vocals. I love Paul Cook's drumming. Uh, Again, on the actual album, Sid Vicious is not playing bass. He's credited as a bass player. It is Steve Jones playing the bass parts because Sid
I
Vicious
mean,
physically
we know
could.
that you love the album. We know you love the band and shit.
That's why I
Who
would
do
put
you
the
think
Sex,
is better?
again, like I said, Sex Pistols
That's
above.
the
Well,
question. You're trying to avoid the question though. You're trying to avoid the
like
question.
I
What
just said
the
it,
question
Sex
is?
Pistols
The
above
question is
Ramones.
the who would you rather have? Yeah.
Sex Pistols above Ramones. I like the
I
Sex Pistols
do
more.
not accept that. I am sorry, but I am gonna say that I would rather have Ramones on top of Sex Pistols
Most people would.
just because of musicianship. Mostly
Wait,
because of musicianship.
Well, defend your reason.
musicianship is like a good reason though.
Musicianship, but then again, also attitude in punk rock, man. Like Dee was badass. He was just a badass. He's just a badass motherfucker.
It was like I love both bands, so I can't really like say it's a bad answer, but yeah, because like the fact again, musicianship is a big part. Because again, as I said, Steve Jones recorded Sid Vicious bass lines. The Ramones, it sounded like Johnny had like do Dee Dee's parts, or like Tommy had to do like Johnny's guitar part. It's like they were a band. Musicianship,
God
they weren't
damn.
just about a look. The Sex Pistols were a lot about their aesthetic. They were about selling punk rock to people. They were a market. They were like basically a punk rock boy band because like Malcolm, their like manager, saw like the Ramones in the U.S. because like the Ramones did a small UK tour back I think in '76, and then Malcolm saw them. He's like, you know what? I love this style. I want to bring this to the UK. And the Damned already kind of started. Damned are the first British punk rock band. And so then Malcolm he had this shop, a sex shop, and it was called Sex. And he was like, hey, he wanted to get these sexy guys doing this like Ramones music.
Yeah, how you doing, Joey? How you doing? How you say it?
Sexy guys. He didn't get sexy guys. He got like Johnny Rotten and like Steve Jones, Paul Cook, and like Flynn Matlock, who were like always shopping at like his like sex shop. And like he was okay, you guys play music? He's like, yeah, kind of. Let's start a band. Let's make punk rock music. That's how it happened. So they were very more aesthetic, but they just happen to be the attitude that would sell punk rock to the US, which is strange. You know?
Well, I felt like it was more like the Clash that sold them more to the U.S. than the Sex Pistols actually did.
They had like the bigger hits, yeah. The Clash were the first huge punk rock band. Again, like I just see the whole Clash sound about them, and yeah, because they took what the Sex Pistols did, and like what the Ramones did, and they gave it more reason behind it. They gave it politics, and they actually had like hits, which the other two bands never had hits.